More than a decade after Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished from radar shortly after taking off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's Transport Ministry has now announced that a private marine robotics firm will resume a deep-sea search for the Boeing 777.
The plane's captain, a veteran Malaysian pilot, deliberately flew the plane into the ocean. Investigators found evidence on a flight simulator at home that he practiced flying that same flight path. But what no one can answer is why.
I mean, after all, the Titanic took almost 100 years to find. I have a gut feeling it won't take this long in this case of MH370, hopefully.
The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 did not begin with a dramatic distress signal or a distressing broadcast. It began simply with a scheduled overnight flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. In the early hours of March 8, 2014, Boeing 777-200 ERM H370 lifted off with 227 passengers and 12 crew members aboard. For years, that flight has been synonymous with mystery, debate, and unresolved grief. There were thousands of theories, countless investigations, and one enduring absence: the aircraft itself. No substantial wreckage has ever been located, despite extensive international search efforts. More than a decade later, the search has taken on renewed urgency and fresh technological promise. This is the story of what is known, what remains unknown, and what new developments are rewriting the final chapter of one of aviation's greatest enigmas.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing. At this hour, a desperate search is underway for MH Flight 370, which departed Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. local time and was due to land in Beijing at 6:30 a.m. Air traffic control lost contact with the plane about 2 hours after takeoff. Whether the disappearance is due to mechanical problems, pilot error, or even terrorism is yet to be.
The disappearance. In the early hours of March 8, 2014, MH370 vanished from civilian radar less than an hour after takeoff. The last voice contact from the cockpit came at approximately 1:19 a.m., a brief, routine, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Shortly afterward, the aircraft's transponder and secondary radar identification ceased transmitting. What followed was a multinational effort unlike any before it. Aircraft, satellites, ships, and deep-sea vessels scoured vast expanses of ocean. The leading theory placed the jet's final location in a remote stretch of the southern Indian Ocean, far from any landmass. Despite this, the search yielded only scattered debris washed ashore on distant coastlines, including Reunion, Mozambique, Tanzania, and Madagascar. In total, fewer than 30 pieces of wreckage have been identified or strongly believed to come from MH370. No large sections of the fuselage, engines, or flight data recorders have ever been recovered.
At first, the search effort focused mainly on the South China Sea, but it switched to the Indian Ocean as radar and satellite tracking data fed suspicions that the plane, a Boeing 777 like this, was deliberately flown hundreds or possibly thousands of miles off.
The search before 2025. The initial search, spanning more than 3 years, covered some 120,000 square kilometers of seabed. It was a colossal undertaking involving Australia, Malaysia, China, and other nations. Though exhaustive, the operation concluded in 2017 without finding the aircraft's main wreckage. In 2018, a private company called Ocean Infinity undertook its own mission under a no-find, no-fee agreement. It covered tens of thousands of square kilometers using robotic underwater vehicles, yet it also failed to locate MH370.
Investigators believe the aircraft's communication systems were disabled on purpose. An early theory was that it headed out over the Andaman Islands. An investigation began into the pilot and co-pilot seen here before boarding. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah had a flight simulator and was reportedly politically active. Co-pilot Farik Abdul Hamid was said to have breached safety rules in the past by letting passengers into the cockpit. Their homes in Kuala Lumpur were searched as passengers' backgrounds were also probed. At least two, both Iranians, had used stolen passports, but this was linked to illegal immigration rather than any terrorist motive.
Over the years, investigators and families pushed for renewed efforts. Satellite data, drift modeling, and reanalyses of earlier scans suggested that vast areas remained unexplored or misunderstood. With each passing year, technologies evolved and theoretical search areas refined, but the definitive breakthrough remained elusive.
More than a decade on since its disappearance, and the question remains, what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? A Boeing airliner, like the one seen here, disappeared from radar on March the 8th, 2014. The flight, with 239 passengers and 12 crew members on board, was en route to Beijing. But when it was due to enter Vietnamese airspace, it vanished without a trace. Tracking analysis indicates MH370 was likely intentionally diverted back over Malaysia. The plane could have flown up to 7 or 8 hours before running out of fuel over the Indian Ocean.
New search, new technology. By late 2024, the long-paused effort to locate MH370 was officially set in motion once again, driven by a growing belief that earlier searches, while extensive, had not exhausted every credible possibility. The Malaysian government approved a renewed deep-sea mission led by Ocean Infinity, returning under a familiar no-find, no-fee framework that placed both financial risk and technological confidence squarely on the company itself.
Normally you talk about finding a needle in a haystack, but in this case, so many years after this aircraft disappeared, we are still looking for the haystack and then to do the details and the detailed search for the needle, aka the plane. Of course, information is pretty sketchy. We have these satellite transmission data from the original flight, which only once hourly were performed and were then measured later on, but it's still difficult to define the exact and most likely area in this vast amount of Indian Ocean space and area west of Australia to actually find the most likely spot even where search would most likely be warranted.
This agreement reflected a careful balance between public accountability and private capability, acknowledging that the search would be costly, difficult, and uncertain, but still worth pursuing in the name of closure. Unlike previous operations that cast an extraordinarily wide net across the southern Indian Ocean, this new mission was shaped by years of additional analysis, including refined interpretations of satellite handshake data, drift modeling of recovered debris, and reassessments of underwater terrain that may have complicated earlier scans.
Would finding it diminished over that time?
Not necessarily. That's why we are now seeing another search, and there's still hope that this mystery, this huge mystery, might be solved one day. I mean, after all, the Titanic took almost 100 years to find. I have a gut feeling it won't take this long in this case of MH370, hopefully. But still, of course, there's no magic bullet here of like, or not even that much new insights of now we have probably found the right spot right away. It's still a vast area, but already in past years, an area about 1/3 the size of Germany has been searched already in vain. But now, after all these years, we have refined information, newly kind of elaborated scientific ways of charting the most probable course of the aircraft that fateful day. And also technology has improved a lot. So there is some hope. And right now, there's a fairly small area being searched of about 15,000 square kilometers, which is a bit bigger than the state of Qatar. So it's a fairly confined area of search.
The result was a significantly reduced search zone, estimated at roughly 15,000 square kilometers, focused on areas that experts now believe may have been overlooked or insufficiently examined during earlier missions. Central to this renewed effort was the deployment of a new generation of autonomous underwater vehicles, machines capable of operating at extreme depths for extended periods without human intervention, navigating complex seabed topography with a level of precision previously unattainable. Equipped with high-resolution sonar, advanced imaging systems, and sensitive detection instruments, these vehicles were designed to identify anomalies consistent with aircraft wreckage, even if debris had fragmented, settled unevenly, or become partially buried beneath layers of sediment over time. Unlike traditional towed sonar systems, the autonomous vehicles could adjust their search patterns dynamically, respond to unexpected findings, and coordinate with one another to maximize coverage while minimizing blind spots.
15,000 square kilometers, that still sounds sizable. What more can you tell us about this new search that's getting underway and what role that technology is playing in this effort to locate the missing aircraft?
Yes, there's this very well-received company doing this search. The Malaysian government has authorized it on a no-fee, no-fine basis. And this company has even invested in new ships and new technology. Ocean Infinity is the name of the company. And they are rewarded, they are promised a reward of $70 million in case they do find the wreckage. So it's all but certain that it will ever be successful, but at least they are armed with really new technology, new ships, and most of the actual searching is done autonomously by underwater vehicles that actually search the seabed and can even look below sediment. So even if possible wreckage parts might be covered by sediments on the seafloor, these machines can actually look beyond the sediment and kind of scan the grounds. So this is really sophisticated equipment, and we can only hope that it actually will make a difference.
This adaptability was seen as critical in a region of the ocean characterized by rugged underwater ridges, deep trenches, and shifting sediment flows that may have concealed evidence for more than a decade. The renewed search formally began at the end of 2025, timed carefully around seasonal weather patterns that influence sea conditions in the southern Indian Ocean, with operations planned in phases rather than as a single continuous sweep. For families of those on board, the operation reopened emotional wounds, even as it renewed hope, standing as a reminder that the passage of time had not diminished the commitment to finding answers. For investigators and aviation experts, it marked a final, carefully calculated effort to resolve a mystery that has reshaped global conversations about flight tracking, accountability, and the limits of modern search technology.
For many, the disappearance of Flight MH370 on the 8th of March 2014 is a baffling aviation mystery. For Zhang Hui, it was a tragedy that changed the course of his life.
I was with my child when my brother called me. He told me my mother's plane had gone missing. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I thought it couldn't be.
His mother was among the 239 people on board the Malaysian Airlines plane when it vanished on its way from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The missing Boeing 777 prompted a years-long underwater search and still hasn't been found.
Families, courts, and closure. The human impact of MH370's disappearance endured long after the flights and fleets returned to port. Families of the victims have lived with unanswered questions for years. In December 2025, a Beijing court ordered Malaysia Airlines to pay compensation to families of 8 passengers, marking one of the few legal developments tied directly to MH370's disappearance. Such rulings reflect the complex interplay between aviation law, international conventions, and the prolonged absence of conclusive evidence about what happened on that flight. While compensation does not provide the definitive answers families seek, it underscores the deeply personal and ongoing nature of this tragedy.
Zhang has spent the past decade campaigning for the government and airline to do more to find out what happened to the flight. It cost him his job and brought him as far as Madagascar, where some debris from the plane is believed to have been found. He's also kept in touch with other Chinese families who had loved ones on board. Over the years, many have accepted financial settlements from the Malaysian government, airline and Boeing, but more than 20 are still waiting for evidence of their loved ones' deaths. Zhang says he won't stop fighting to find out exactly what happened to his mother, and says she would be proud of his determination.
Seeing her photo was incredibly disheartening, so I put them away in a box. I felt ashamed to open it. My mother raised me, and I still haven't found her. Only when I find her, find the plane, find the truth, will I be able to open that box and face my mother directly.
MH370 matters. MH370's disappearance is not just a technical or scientific puzzle. It is a human story, a chapter in modern aviation that reshaped how airlines, regulators, and investigators think about communication, tracking, and search coordination. The aircraft's sudden loss of contact prompted changes in how commercial flights are monitored around the world, with many in the industry pushing for more robust real-time tracking systems. The push for global flight tracking, a concept that would require aircraft positions to be reported continuously, gained momentum because of MH370's disappearance. In the years since March 2014, the absence of conclusive evidence has fueled speculation ranging from plausible mechanical failure to controversial theories involving deliberate actions. Yet none of these theories have been definitively proven. The official investigations and credible analyses all return to one simple truth. Without the wreckage and flight recorders, the exact cause may never be known. What comes next? As 2026 begins, the renewed search represents both a scientific and emotional journey. The Ocean Infinity mission does not promise discovery, but it offers the most focused and technologically advanced attempt yet to locate the final resting place of MH370. If wreckage or data surfaces, it could finally answer lingering questions and reshape the story that has captivated the world for nearly 12 years. If the search does not yield results, that too will shape future approaches to aviation safety and ocean exploration. A mission that fails to locate the aircraft might lead to deeper questions about how the oceans are mapped, how data is interpreted, and how technologies can improve. In either case, the search for MH370 continues to echo through aviation history as a testament to human curiosity, loss, and the persistent drive to understand what happens when the known gives way to the unknown. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished without warning. It left behind not just an empty sky, but a legacy of questions that have shaped modern aviation. The renewed deep-sea search, underway since late 2025, brings fresh hope and fresh scrutiny to a mystery that has endured for more than a decade. What really happened to MH370 remains unconfirmed, but the effort to find out continues, driven by advanced technology, renewed commitment, and the hope that someday answers will rise from the ocean floor.